Hey guys, I'm Izzy from WoW Weekly and welcome to this Heroic Skyreach quick guide. Today we'll be taking a look at the bosses in the Warlords of Draenor dungeon, Skyreach. First up is Ranjit. Ranjit is a fairly challenging boss in terms of movement, and you can expect to be moving a lot during this fight. His first attack is one the tank should look out for. It's called Piercing Rush. This is a small wind-up attack which deals a large amount of damage on contact, although this can be difficult to move away from. His second ability is Fan of Blades, which is an ability that will always hit a ranged player. It puts a bleed effect on them and it does some minor damage over 6 seconds, but it adds up, so this is something to look out for if you're a healer. Throughout the fight, Ranjit will throw an orange blade to someone called Spinning Blade. This blade moves in a semicircle around the platform, and if you get hit by it, you'll take some damage. There is also a white blade which Ranjit will throw to a random enemy. It will land where they stand and it will create a small wind line which will rotate and deal damage, so just be sure to stay away from it. His most noticeable ability is Four Winds, which creates a huge wind wall in a curved plus shape, rotating slowly and dealing large amounts of damage to those who make contact with it. This can be difficult to avoid alongside the spinning blades, so be sure to watch out. Finally, we have Lens Flare, a fixate similar to one we will see later on in the dungeon, which is a beam of light which will slowly follow a player and leave fire on the ground dealing 35k damage per second. So it's best to run this around the edge of the platform. Up next is Arachna. This boss only has 3 abilities and is largely just a check to see how much damage and healing you can do. First up is Smash, where Arachna will smash the ground and inflict great physical damage to all enemies in a small area, so it's best to move out of this. Next is Burst. This is an unavoidable AoE which deals fire damage, and every cast increases its damage by 4%. This is where the DPS check comes in, as you need to kill it before your healer can no longer keep up with it. His final ability, the part that makes this fight hard, is Energize. There are crystals situated around the room, and 2 of them will channel a beam, which will heal the boss for 75% of its maximum health every second. Players will have to block this, but doing so will cause you to take 10k damage per second. It's best to use personal damage reduction cooldowns to survive these, especially when they're accompanied with a burst. Rotating people who soak the damage can also help your healer out. The third boss, Rukan, can be a bit of an annoyance. Tanks can mitigate a part of the fight the stacking armor debuff called Pierce Armor. They can do this by just keeping their active mitigation up. Throughout the fight, piles of ash will appear on the floor or be on the floor from previous solar flares. Rukan will summon solar flares, inflicting high AoE damage in a 5-yard radius where it's summoned. And if it appears anywhere near a pile of ash, these will also be reborn into birds. These birds have relatively little HP and be killed with ease, although more and more will spawn as the fight goes on, and you will still need to kill the boss as well. When summoned, a bird fixates onto a player, and if it reaches a player it explodes. It will deal 164k damage within 10 yards, and 88k damage further than that, so it's best not to let them reach a player. Killing a bird will also make it explode, but for 25k damage within 10 yards. So for melee, it's best to just avoid killing these. When the flares explode, they can also revive any pile of ash within a 5-yard radius. So kill them away from the piles of ash. His final ability is called Quills. It's an ability that the boss will cast infrequently. You'll get plenty of warning and notice, and you'll just need to line of sight yourself from the boss. You can do this by using the giant pillar in the center of the room. If you get hit by Quills, you will get a stacking debuff, increasing your damage taken by 10% per tick. Also note that if no one is in melee range when it ends, he will start AoEing the group with Screech. Finally, we have High Sage Viryx, the final boss. His first ability is called Solar Burst, something that should be interrupted every cast as it deals 90k damage to an enemy. Everyone has interrupts though, so this shouldn't really be a problem. Next up is Lens Flare, which you might remember from the first boss. It's a giant beam which follows a player, leaving fire behind. Pull this towards the edge of the platform to create the most possible space. During the fight, the boss will summon a minion called Solar Zealot. This will pick up a player and take them to the edge. This is just like the Valkyrie from the Lich King encounter. These can be slowed and stunned and must be killed. An animation will appear on the player and it's fairly obvious who's going to get abducted. When it's on you, move as much to the center as possible so your group has a chance to free you. When freeing these players, be wary of the lens flare because you don't want to release people into the fire. And finally, Viryx will summon a shield construct which shields him for 99% damage taken. And the easiest way to deal with this is to just kill it, although you can interrupt it as well. And that pretty much covers everything you need to know for a Skyreach Heroic. If you liked this quick guide, please comment, subscribe and click on the like button. Be sure to check out our other content at wowweekly.net. If you would like to keep up with when new videos come out, but you don't have a YouTube account, you can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter at facebook.com/wowweekly or twitter.com/bbmezzy. For now, I'm Mezzy, and I'll see you again next time.